Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Sam Williams.
I'm Sierra Obermark.
And I'm Irvin Cateman. And I am so excited to introduce our guest for today's episode, Saul. Welcome to the podcast, Saul.
Welcome.
Thank you. Delighted to be here. My first ever appearance on any podcast.
Well done.
Oh, this is a historic occasion. Also, for how much you know about Harry Potter, I'm a little astonished you haven't made your way to the podcast circuit yet.
Well, you know I'm very basic, very offline kind of Potter fan.
True, which baffles me. But because you're not online, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I am, Irvin's heard this before, 11-year-old me would absolutely have been soared into Ravenclaw, but now, at 34, I am such a Hufflepuff, and we should all be Hufflepuffs.
Hi! And agreed.
Favorite book, Half-Blood Prince. Favorite character, whatever I tell you today, it might be different next week. I just go through a cycle of, is it Dumbledore? Is it McGonagall? Is it the twins? I'm very influenced by whatever I've just been reading from the series that day.
Okay, so who is it today?
We'll say the Weasley twins today, because I was just listening to some Order of the Phoenix at work.
We should have you and Grace on an episode together just to see her hatred for the twins and your love for the twins, and see if that would create a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
Challenge accepted.
Better yet, if Grace ends up doing a book launch in New York like I'm trying to bully her into doing, you can come and you can ask a question, being like, hey, so I know you wrote a book about Voldemort, but aren't the Weasley twins the best?
I like this plan.
Grace listens to the podcast, cancels all New York appearances. How did you come to Harry Potter and the fandom and all the rest of it?
My family was a couple years late on that. I think first book came out in 97, is that right?
Yes, 97 in the UK, 98 over here.
Yeah.
Got it. And then, so it would have been summer of 1999 when my mom started reading me and my brothers the first book, and instantly hooked. Chamber of Secrets, I believe, was also out by then, so we could read that one next. And then starting with Prisoner of Azkaban, we were buying the books as they came out. Starting with book 5, we would buy multiple copies of each book because everyone wanted to read it right away. And saw the movies, of course, which ranged from fine to bad. But those are really just the core texts for me. I've never read any fan fiction except for Cursed Child, which I regret reading. Until I met you, I'd never listened to a single Wizard Rock song. But that's where you come in. You're here to broaden my horizons.
Yes.
Saul, I have a whole 2 years of Harry Potter fan fiction about a boy named Raven Husher that you should read.
Put it in the doc so I don't forget.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, no, very glad I could be, your guide to our broad and wonderful fandom. And yeah, great to have you here with us. And while we're doing hellos, we also have a couple really sad goodbyes we're going to be saying this episode, because it's about that time. This is going to be Sam and Sierra's last episode as regular hosts here at the Three Broomsticks.
Farewell, good night, goodbye forever now. We go to the Grey Havens because we were both ring bearers. Oh, wait, wrong fandom.
Oh, you guys.
I know.
End of an era.
It really is.
Indeed.
I came in on episode 1. Sierra, you were a guest on episode 6, joined us episode 9.
Yes. Something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Per our spreadsheet, you've both been on 42 episodes so far.
Excellent. So the correct number to end on, per our last episode where we discussed how 42, and then Tavi let it sit in the air, and Irvin just goes, wrong podcast. It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxies for anybody that listened to the last podcast and then wondered what that meant, didn't go look it up. Now you have the answer. Aren't you glad you listened to this one?
See, that's the thing. You guys have been educating us, since day one.
We try.
That's the point.
Well, you know what? We hope the last one's going to be a good one.
Indeed.
Go out in a blaze of glory.
Blaze of glory. Oh gosh. It sounds good, but when you actually go out in a blaze of glory, usually there involves death.
Yes, some sort of fire.
Some sort of very, very dramatic, permanent end.
I hope we go out tepidly so that we can return when we guest or sub-host.
Okay, it's a very un-Gryffindor sentiment, but we'll accept it. No guts and no glory.
Well, I mean, Harry was a Gryffindor, and he's the one who put on an invisibility cloak so nobody could see his glorious blaze.
This is true.
So the most Gryffindor, in fact, I've ever been.
Well, for our final tepid or blazing glorious exit of questionable fieriness, we are gathered here for episode number 83 to discuss Polyjuice Potion. We have some recommended reading. We have, first of all, Irvin's essay about Polyjuice Potion in the Summer of Fun zine.
Yeah, it's a zine.
So there was a lot of exclamation marks in there.
There are indeed. Bess Carnan, who runs WZRD Radio, it's a Wizard Rock podcast, she put together a Harry Potter zine last summer and just told everyone, submit whatever you think is fun, and we're doing a Summer of Fun zine. And so naturally, I wanted to write about Polyjuice Potion because I think that is the most fun thing I could think of. So it's in this zine alongside a lot of, poetry pieces, more Dumbledore Slughorn smut than I really expected, but it was there. It's available on Etsy as a digital download, or you can get a physical copy. Bess will ship you a physical zine. So I have one proudly on my shelf.
Incredible.
Fantastic. And secondly, we have Joe's Pottermore article about Polyjuice, which can be found at harrypotter.com. Links to these will be found in the show notes and also on our website.
Yes. And before we dive into the Polyjuice Potion, we want to give a huge thanks to Nika Del Borgo over on our Patreon, who bought us this round of drinks at the pub. So, whoop whoop! Thank you, Nika!
Yay!
Yes, well done, Nico.
Much appreciated. Listeners, if you want to buy us around at the pub, please head on over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up. There's lots and lots of bonus content over there. And I can also promise you there's going to be some slightly not suitable for work Polyjuice content over there. Because, as Saul knows, my meetup co-organizer has... some might say a passion, some might say an obsession with the sexy implications of Polyjuice Potion, and we are going to just dive on in and let her have free reign over on our Patreon. You can look forward to that. You can also check out our vast catalog of bonus Patreon content that's already up there. And we'd really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the Three Broomsticks so we can keep talking about Harry Potter for a long time to come. And I guess with that, we are going to dive on in to Polyjuice Potion, which, I would definitely argue is the most important potion we see in the series.
Felix Felicis exists. Also, a bunch of healing potions that keep people alive.
True. But in terms of centrality to the plot, I'm going to give it to Polyjuice.
But Felix Felicis gets Harry the memory and makes people stay alive at the end of 6. We don't have Ron, Hermione, and Ginny. As Ginny said, all of us would have died if you hadn't given us that potion.
Yeah, so Ron would have died, so mixed bag, really.
And Ginny and Hermione.
Okay, yeah, that would have been sad.
But Felix is such a late addition to the game. Polyjuice has been with us since book 2.
Yes.
I don't disagree with that, but in terms of functionality, I think Felix Felicis has to be more important, but not more impactful.
Sure.
Well put.
I think we're going to start off with the 7 ingredients of today's special, by which we mean the 7 ingredients of today's potion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So, there are, of course, 7 ingredients to Polyjuice, which are lacewing flies stewed for 21 days, leeches, the powdered horn of a bicorn, knotgrass, fluxweed that was picked at the full moon, shredded boomslang skin, and a bit of whomever you want to turn into.
So this could be 1 ingredient extra, or I want both toenails and hair and skin and a shaving of the worm ring that you've got on your foot from your wrestling days, all in there. So it could be 7 ingredients. It also could be 10, 20.
I think all of those would just count as 1 ingredient, which is a bit of whoever you want. It doesn't say what bit or how many bits.
It's just a very imperfect way of cooking.
That is my one little thing about this potion is everything is so specific, except for that it doesn't say like 1 hair this amount long, or like you can literally pick anything. And what if you pick, a whole clump of their hair and put a whole clump in there? How is that it's not any different than just 1 hair or something like that, which seems opposite of what we see from any other potion.
Yeah, that's very true.
Where if you just turn clockwise instead of counterclockwise 1 time, your entire potion could be ruined. But you can have as much or as little of this person as you want, and it doesn't change anything. That we see, at least.
True. I think it's kind of like, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I don't think the bit of whoever it is so much part of the potion as just sort of directing the potion.
Like a catalyst.
Yes. Yeah.
But imagine a world where Ron was forced to drink crab's toenails because that was the rule.
Oh, that would indeed have been a good world. And I will also just say that these 7 ingredients are my Achilles heel in Harry Potter trivia. Like, for the life of me, I can't remember all 7, like, on the same day.
It's the leeches for me, because everything else, like, lacewing, that's easy to remember. Powdered bicorn. Oh, okay, sure. Knotgrass, that sounds different. Fluxweed, yeah, awesome. Oh, and picked a full moon, I can remember that. Shredded boomsling skin, awesome. Definitely got that. And then the regular thing, just any old leech.
Yep.
Gets me every time.
Yeah. One day I will get this at a trivia contest, and like it will be my greatest accomplishment. One day.
I've tried to, over the years, help myself with the mnemonic of, like, there are 4 animal ingredients, 2 plant ingredients, and then a bit of the person. And that at least narrows it down to, all right, I'm forgetting some animal, but I can't remember what animal I've forgotten, and we're back where we started.
You need to remember all for potion ingredients specifically, but instead of it being just red fog, it actually tells you the thing that you've missed.
That would be very cool. Like, it just appears, instead of it just being red fog, the red fog forms
stuff?
whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Forms that would suck.
I would never remember what it is. Like a picture of it.
Oh, a picture of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What is the red fog? Y'all lost me.
In the remember all?
Inside of a remember all.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Got there. No one ever references remember-alls. It just 100% slipped my mind that it exists.
But we do.
This is what you're losing as we go. Much remember-all stuff.
Well, the problem is I can't remember what I've forgotten.
Yeah, for real.
So Joe Rowling actually wrote in that Pottermore article, like, her thought process of these ingredients. So honestly, I think I'm just going to read it verbatim because it's actually very insightful. She wrote, I remember creating the full list of ingredients for the Polyjuice Potion. Each one was carefully selected. Lacewing flies, the first part of the name suggests an intertwining or binding together of 2 identities. Leeches, to suck the essence out of one and into the other. Horn of a bicorn, the idea of duality. knotgrass, another hint of being tied to another person, fluxweed, the mutability of the body as it changed into another, and boomslang skin, a shredded outer body and a new inner. And I was like, damn.
Pretty cool.
That was well done.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably why we know more about, like, how to brew Polyjuice than literally any other potion in the series.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like all the other potions we know, like, an ingredient, or we know that, like, the fourth line is to stir clockwise. Here, like, we know the whole thing. And I'd say it's both because of how central it is to the plot and in how poetic the selection of the ingredients was. But, Saul, you had some points you wanted to make about, what happens when they actually drink it in the story?
Oh, I won't force us to spend more time on this than y'all want to, but the main way I re-engage with these books is picking nits, because we pick nits because we love. It's fun to do.
True.
It's not just me. I get it from my dad. So yeah, I when I heard I was going to be talking about Polyjuice, I knew it was my time to just rattle off why these
This
plans.
is why God put me on this earth.
And specifically on this podcast.
For March 28th's release of the nits to be picked about Polyjuice Potion. Little did you know that both Sierra and I would be like, that last ingredient's nitpick, 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 nitpick.
Yeah, that showed me who I'd be dealing with on this here show. I'm thrilled. But yeah, just things like, all right, you knock out Crab and Goyle to take their hairs, and they're not going to tell Draco later, man, you won't believe what just happened to us. No, it's not something they'll ever talk about. Fine. Or they'll bring it up and he just won't believe them, and they'll give up trying. I don't know what's supposed to come after they wake up.
Yeah. Or they just don't remember. That they wake up and they're like, how do we get over here?
How did we get locked in this broom cupboard?
Well, from how dim we see them portrayed in the first few, at least, it seems like maybe that is not an unusual occurrence for them to just eat so much food that they pass out somewhere and don't recall how they got there.
I should give Hermione credit. She knows the marks better than I do. She goes to school with these dopes. But that also got me wondering about a tangent that we could go on or not of Hermione turns into a cat sort of thing, and they have to bring her up, and I think it's Harry who says Madame Pomfrey never asks too many questions. And I never thought until I was preparing for this episode, is that just a Madame Pomfrey thing? Or a Hogwarts nurse rule?
I think that's those who work with teenagers, if you are in the medical field, you kind of don't ask too many questions, or you fear that they will not come to you for help.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I don't want to go to Madame Pomfrey because I don't want to get in trouble, etc., etc. Versus Madame Pomfrey is literally like, the main thing that I'm here for is to make sure you get healed and feel better and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I got to, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Irvin, you want me to keep going, or have I?
Please.
Listen, if you want to pick some nits, you've come to the right pub, so by all means.
All right. And once we get to Goblet of Fire, because Crouch Jr. is camped out at Hogwarts the whole year for this, frankly, even insaner Harry and the Triwizard tournament plan.
For real.
That runs bonkers.
He then has to spend the whole year constantly robbing and re-robbing Snape's stores, and then Snape catches him at it that one time, and he says, no, it's okay, Dumbledore told me to. And Snape never brought that up with Dumbledore.
Correct, because they were in a
They were
fight.
in a big fight.
It's great that they don't talk to each other. That helps the bad guys out immensely.
Yeah, no. One of the best essays I ever read pointed out that, like, the only reason Barty Crouch Jr. got away with anything is because Snape and Dumbledore weren't talking, and he relied on that. Like, he would have been busted so fast otherwise.
And it's kind of at the end of that year, Dumbledore slightly kind of weirdly apologizes when he's like, united, we're together, and it's good, but divided, we'll let him win. And then side-eyes Snape and goes, sorry.
Yeah. They're like, united we stand, divided we fall. Right, Severus?
Don't fight with me. I'm better than you.
Yeah. Hey, carry on, Saul.
Oh, and then just also from Goblet of Fire, when we're hearing Crouch Jr.'s confession at the end about changing places with his mother, it gets me thinking, is Crouch Sr. a big enough shot at the Ministry that he can just bluff his way past Azkaban security and bring this Polyjuice in there? And Dumbledore had told, which, yes, fine, I buy that. But then the Dementors don't notice the switch because
They can't see.
They're blind.
they can't see, but they feel their way through emotions. And Dumbledore assured us in Book 3 that they're not to be fooled by tricks or disguises.
Right.
Fine.
Might we suggest that Dumbledore was being less than forthcoming and trying to discourage his students from
Yes.
pulling one over on the Dementors?
That's how I feel about that as well. Is that specifically to Harry
Yeah.
and his invisibility cloak?
Right, because it even says, or invisibility cloaks.
Yeah.
You know, I'll buy that. I can't rebut that.
The sort of insanity of the plot of Barty Crouch Jr. is very crazy when you consider the fact that not only does he have to do this Polyjuice thing once an hour every hour, and like at some point, like you have to start rationing like hair as you would like forestry for lumber, where you're like, well, I gotta let this grow more. He also just has to sit there and grade papers all year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. He has to like actually do his job.
Which is insane. That he's just like, wait. So instead of me just grabbing Harry and apparating, or taking him, stunning him, carting him off and apparating just outside the grounds, I'm going to grade 700 papers every week just so that we can get him to a port key at the end.
Yep.
By God, these students will learn how to deflect the twitchy ears, Hex. I'm going to do some good.
Yeah.
Also, let's make sure that Harry can throw off the Imperious Curse instead of my master being able to use it. That sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
It's the perfect cover story.
The teacher on the panel is like, who would voluntarily grade papers if they don't need to?
Yeah.
And then I didn't know if this was a thought that would have been better placed later in the doc, but the Azkaban Polyjuice scheme got me thinking for the first time that, so we know the potion keeps working after you have died, because Mrs. Crouch is buried under my name and bearing my appearance, says her son.
Yeah.
Very smart potion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't have to talk about the Seven Potters plan. Deranged.
Yeah, okay, let's not, because it's so dumb. The thing about all these plans is, like, they're a little wild and, like, a little nuts, but they're also kind of brilliant and, frankly, effective, other than the Seven Potters thing. That's just dumb.
I mean, they didn't find Harry initially.
Sure. I have to imagine there was a better way, but my rant about the Seven Potters can await another day.
No, you're right that in the end, I can't argue with the results. It's not the plan I would have come up with, but who am I to judge?
Again, these books espouse a consequentialist morality, so Polyjuice Potion, A-okay. But so you said that Polyjuice is smart. Polyjuice is also a judge of character, apparently, because it changes appearance and taste based on whom you're transforming into.
Mm-hmm.
Because the text says that Milton Bulstrode's cat turned a 6 sort of yellow, which I don't know if that's because the cat is a bad person or if it's because a cat. Unclear. But Goyle's turned the khaki color of a booger. Crab's turned a dark murky brown. But Harry's, he's a good person, it turned a clear, bright gold. And Hermione's like, oh, you look so tasty.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild thing to say.
And then when Hermione takes the Bellatrix Polyjuice, she's like, oh, she tastes disgusting, worse than Gertie Roots. So yes, apparently Polyjuice Potion is a judge of character.
Also, apparently Hermione's eaten Gertie Roots.
Was this before or after?
It's after the
She had them
Xenophilius
from-
Lovegood visit,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten that it's specifically mentioned in the text.
It is very in keeping, though, with Rowling's broader strategy that so many of the antagonists are fat or ugly. And so, of course, their polyjuice is going to be less tasty than our hero, Harry.
Yeah, don't love that.
But I think it works within the magic system because Polyjuice uses, like, the essence of who you are to transform the person. We'll get into this later. So I think it makes sense that, like, the Potter series, like, believes in, like, souls and the essence of who you are, and that, like, they can be whole or unblemished or tarnished or what have you. And I think that Polyjuice Potion, because it deals in questions of self, like, deals with that. So I think it makes perfect sense that it could externalize this sort of, you know, quality of who you are as a person.
I really like the coloring system of the Polyjuice Potion thing. My main comment was about how I don't love that a lot of her villains are physically othered, and therefore her heroes are usually within the norms of body typing. That was all I was really saying.
Sure.
I'll agree with Irvin that in the case of Polyjuice, yes, you can rationalize it in the way he did.
Yes.
It's not just gratuitous.
Yes. It's also very, very funny.
Yes.
For more, please see episode 69. So, I thought we could just sort of quickly run down all the transformations in the series, because we actually have a fairly good sample size from which we can sort of draw conclusions. So, per my research, there were 9 transformations throughout the series. So, quickly running them down. First, Harry, Ron, and Hermione take it in Chamber of Secrets to transform into Goyle, Crabbe, and a furry fiasco, as it were. Then Barty Crouch Jr. and Mrs. Crouch polyjuice into each other to perform the Azkaban prison break. Barty Crouch Jr. takes it throughout all of Goblet of Fire for a whole year to transform into Mad-Eye Moody. In Half-Blood Prince, Crabbe and Goyle take it to transform into young girls to guard the Room of Requirement, which is actually like a fun bit of ring theory that Crabbe and Goyle were the ones turned into in Book 2, but are the ones turning into other people in Book 6. But anyway, then in the Battle of Seven Potters, Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, Fleur, and Mundungus use it to transform into Harry. Then Harry uses it to transform into a random redhead at Bill and Fleur's wedding, known to all of us as Barney Weasley, except apparently Luna can see through Polyjuice. Harry, Ron, and Hermione take it to transform into the Ministry employees for their Ministry break-in in Deathly Hallows. So Harry turns into Albert Runcorn, Ron into Reg Cattermole, and Hermione into Mafalda Hopkirk. Then, when they're on the run, Harry and Hermione use it to transform into anonymous muggles. And then finally, Hermione uses it to transform into Bellatrix for the Great Gringotts Caper. So yeah, we got a lot of data points about sort of who uses Polyjuice and how it all works, which is why I have so much fun actually trying to figure it all out. But Saul, did you have any points about all these transformations and, sort of the onus it takes on the people transforming or lack thereof?
Oh, so glad you asked, Irvin. Just another of my nitpicky observations is as we keep going and brewing this stuff, less time is spent on the brewing, which I'll forgive. The story needs to happen. But Chamber of Secrets, you've got these 3 kids brewing it in secret for a month. And then Goblet of Fire, Crouch Jr. can whip it up at his dad's house in a week. And then by the last 2 books, we're just stealing Polyjuice that other people have made. So that was... I'd never thought of that before until I was preparing for this, and it made me chuckle.
Yeah. Well, so the main time constraint is the... the lacewing flies have to be stewed for 21 days. That's sort of the main barrier. Mm-hmm. So I imagine that, like, especially in the case of Crouch Jr., you can probably buy pre-stewed lacewing flies. Like, surely some apothecary can be like, listen, like, we'll charge you a hefty premium, but we'll stew these for 21 days. We got you.
My hope then would be that stewed lacewing flies are a common enough ingredient that people didn't go,
brewing some Polyjuice there?
Yeah, exactly. Why is the senior ministry head, who people thought were going to be up for Minister of Magic, making Polyjuice?
Dun, dun, dun.
This was my exact thought when it's time to swap Crouch Jr. with Mrs. Crouch is, does Crouch Sr. just go shopping for the stuff himself?
Of course not. Winky does.
Yeah, but
like people know that that's her house elf.
And you know what? She might need lacewing flies for who knows what.
That's the hope, right?
Yes.
it was a funny mental image to me as Polyjuice shopping.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because what are the ingredients that Snape calls out in Goblet of Fire as, like, weird that they were stolen? Boomslang skin, and I think there were two.
Well, in the movie he says boomslang skin and lacewing flies. In the book, I believe it's just boomslang skin and gillyweed, like separate.
Oh, yeah,
bouts
yeah,
of
boomslang
thievery.
skin is the only one stolen.
For Polyjuice,
Yeah. So apparently boomslang skin is probably the, like, indicator that something suspicious is going on. Lacewing flies are probably common.
One would hope.
Actually, hold on. I feel like they talk about which ingredients are common and which ones aren't.
Yeah, what's in the store cupboard versus...
Yeah, so lacewing flies, leeches, fluxweed, and knotgrass are easy enough. They're in the student store cupboard. So yeah, lacewing flies are a fairly common ingredient. Okay. Asked and answered. So, before we get into sort of how a world with Polyjuice in it works, I really kind of wanted to talk about how Polyjuice itself works. Because, again, I find this fascinating, and I have debated this ad nauseum on many, many occasions. So, Polyjuice Potion, and again, like, tell me at any point if you disagree with any of these, because a lot of these are me, like, being like, I think that makes sense. But Polyjuice Potion only transforms your physical appearance. So, like, not mind, soul, magic, like, whatever it all that is. Because we clearly see that characters keep their minds when they transform. You know, everything from Fleur being all, I'm hideous, to Hermione failing to act as Bellatrix. Their magic doesn't transform. Like, Bellatrix's wand still won't acknowledge Hermione as its master. And Saul, as you pointed out, even if you transform into a muggle, you can still cast magic, which was a very good catch. And it also doesn't transform, like, your identity, however we're defining that. Like, the Marauders map recognizes Crouch as Crouch, despite...
And Pettigrew is Pettigrew.
And Pettigrew is Pettigrew. And so I imagine stuff like the, you know, Hall of Prophecy, where it needs to be you touching it, also wouldn't be fooled.
Yeah.
But unlike in the movies, your voice does change. That is part of your body that is changing. Because, yeah, the part where they have, like, Goyle talking with Harry's voice is dumb.
That's a movieism just for audiences. I don't even think that in universe of the movie that's actually occurring like that. I think they do that literally so that the audience doesn't get confused because there's so many children watching the movie.
Meh.
But they do say, we still sound like ourselves.
Oh, do they say that?
Yeah. You need to
Yeah.
sound more like Crab.
He talks down here. You're right. Well, still, it's a movieism that I can forgive because they have 5-year-olds in the audience who are going, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not a movieism that, like, I will die on a hill for. Like, it's just a dumb one.
But credit to my friend Simone who put it this way. Your vocal cords change too.
No, they didn't.
Right.
Apparently.
Yes, that is a part of your body that is changing along with everything else.
I do wonder if, because after long-term exposure, your brain is being changed each time. And so it's interesting. We know that, like, when humans continually do new habits and their synapses starts to change, that it literally will change behavior. So it's interesting that Barty Crouch Jr. doesn't actually change more to be moody-ish.
Right.
After constantly getting his brain changed and changed and changed and changed.
So I was wrestling with that a bit because, like, if you're changing the body, like, the brain is a part of the body and, like, what is your mind, but your brain and so on. But I think that's just one of those things where, like, we have to accept, like, you know, Rowling's understanding of the world that, like, your mind is not just the synapses in your brain, that it's something, like, more than the physical.
Yeah, I think it's a contrived bit of and not, not contrived in a negative connotation. It's just a contrived bit of magic to keep things uncomplicated and not have to do 10,000 bits of world building to explain.
Yeah. I mean, we also could say that, like, part of Polyjuice's magic is that it doesn't impact your brain.
That would be crazy, because it would be having to do a lot more heavy lifting in terms of, like, latching this spinal cord's brain connection.
Credit again to my same friend Simone, who studied neuroscience in college, and so when I mentioned this Polyjuice episode I'd be on to her, did take us down the path of, but if it changes your brain chemistry, is your intelligence affected? Does the hand you write with, if you turn into someone who's left-handed and you're right-handed, do we need to worry about that? And ultimately I land on, no, probably that wouldn't change, but you would just need to think about it when you're impersonating them as, oh, they write with the other hand.
So actually, that was something we discussed a lot at the Polyjuice meetup we had, of, like, do you gain the physical abilities of whom you're transforming into? And I think the way I can reconcile it best is you'd gain, like, the physical attributes, but, like, your body wouldn't have the knowledge required. So, like, for example, like, if you transform into a runner, you'll have the endurance and the speed, because that's part of the body. If you transform into a gymnast, you'll have the flexibility to do a split. But I feel like if you transform into Ilya Malinin, like, you wouldn't be able to land a quad axel, because, like, you need to know how to make your body do that. That's not just a physical thing.
See, but that's just so frustrating, because the brain is just a muscle like everything else. And so if you have spent, a long time training your running endurance, but you've done a long time training your brain and what turns out to be muscle memory, you should be able to do it per the Polyjuice Potion if it's changing your physical status.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it's more like, I almost wonder if it's more of one of those things where you could land the triple axel, but you'd probably need to have an understanding of how to make your body move that way.
Exactly.
But then if you tried it, you probably could. So because you don't need to, like, redo training or anything like that, but you would need to have some sort of an idea of how that body works.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, you'd need to know, like, oh, like, you tuck your hands in here, you jump like so, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think the best analog I have for Polyjuice, like, from other media is Mystique in X-Men. Right, because when she transforms, she completely transforms into, like, the person's physical appearance, but she doesn't get their powers, and she very much keeps her own mind.
But that's just the outer layer. All of her inner organs stay the same.
Do they? She, like, transforms into, like, a bird at one point, so...
Yeah. So my best understanding in the comics is that she's able to do the outside appearance, but it doesn't change her insides, essentially.
Yeah, she can, like, we've seen her, she can do wings, she can do claws, she can do a tail, but she couldn't turn her eyes into those of Cyclops and start shooting optic blasts.
Yeah.
I mean, she could turn her eyes into Cyclopses, they just wouldn't shoot optic blasts.
But that's the point, is that it's not doing the inner workings, it's only doing the outer, outside layer. Mm-hmm. So they could look brown, because it's basically just an illusion affectation. But you can't actually do a physical-based mutation.
Wait, really? You think it's an illusion? You don't think she's, like, actually changing her body?
No. That's a sort of a simile or proxy. It's not an illusion. She physically changes. But essentially, it is the illusion of being that person. She can't actually do the things that person would do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because her inner workings aren't any different.
Mm-hmm.
My comp was Zam Wessel, the changeling from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I don't get that reference, but yeah,
it's a good reference.
Similar thing, like similar thing to Mystique.
Yeah,
similar-ish. Yeah,
we'll tell you when you're older, Irvin.
Okay, great. So all this talk of, like, physical abilities versus magical abilities, it made me wonder about, like, an edge case, because, like, Polyjuice is really fun when you get to the edge cases. Anime guy, right? So first, if you polyjuiced into someone who was an animagus, would you be able to then transform into an animal? Like, if you polyjuice into McGonagall, can you become a cat? Like, I'm saying no because you don't get the person's magical abilities. What do you guys think?
I mean, it depends on how physically based that transformation is, right? Because again, if you've set up your body, and we're saying it changes the entire body, so all organs are changing, your brain is changing, etc., etc. If that is just simply I feel inside my soul, whoop, then if there's some coding within your DNA or whatever magical DNA you have, then you should be able to do that one. If it is like more of a non-verbal spell, then no, I don't think you can.
It feels right to me, Irvin, that just the narrative might suffer if you could cheat at being an animagus. Just turn into an animagus and have all that comes with it.
Yeah. But, okay, other way around. If the drinker is an animagus to begin with, could they still transform when polyjuiced?
I would think so.
I would guess they probably could, just because it's your own magical ability that's nothing to do with your appearance or your body. But given how animals and polyjuice don't mix, I would say it's probably inadvisable to try. Yeah, I don't think it would go well.
Yeah, again, I think it comes down to if it's like you've changed your body physically so that it can do this transformation on command, or if there's a magical spell component to it.
Well, there's definitely a magic component to being an animagus.
No, I agree with that. I mean, once the final thing has occurred, is it my body is now capable of this transformation and I just trigger a brain signal to change my body? Or is there a nonverbal spell happening that I'm essentially uttering? And if it's more magical in that sense, then I don't think you could.
I don't think it's a spell. I think it's a magical ability, but I don't think those transfer over under Polyjuice. Again, kind of like the mutant abilities wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's what exactly is transforming. So let's talk time limit. So per the books, it is 1 hour. Exactly 1 hour, no more, no less. Despite various retconning that has happened since. So, per your guys' earlier point about, how much hair and all that you put in, doesn't change it. Sort of you either drink enough polyjuice or to transform, or you drink not enough polyjuice to transform. I don't think you can be a little polyjuiced any more than you could be a little pregnant. But the interesting thing that I am trying to figure out is, if you keep drinking, sort of the way Barty Crouch Jr. did, let's say you drink every 55 minutes, right? So every time you drink, the clock resets an hour. So you're transformed for an hour from the last drink. Do you guys think it counts as a new transformation each time? Or is it just continuing the old one? Because I assume the latter, but I really don't have proof one way or the other.
I think because we see Moody drinking while he is in the body, it just resets the timer.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at.
Because otherwise, he'd have to leave the room
every single time.
Yeah.
Do the transformation back, and then come back out every single time. But we just see him consistently drinking from the hip flask.
Yeah.
And I think also of Mrs. Crouch in Azkaban, if there were a risk of her changing back to herself even for a few minutes, I mean, that sinks the plan. And so, yes, in my head, it's always been, if you're transformed and drink some more, then you just keep it going.
Professor, why is your skin bubbling? Look away, children.
Very personal question.
This is what happens if you don't have constant vigilance.
And don't use moisturizer. And then this was a very hot topic at our discussion. But basically, no polyjuicing from a polyjuicer. I think Polyjuice Potion doesn't recognize someone's polyjuiced identity. So basically, if you drink a potion with Hermione as Bellatrix's hair, you still transform into Hermione.
Which would speak to why your brain doesn't change and you don't lose intelligence, etc., etc. Because then there is some part of you that is still remaining in the deep DNA codes.
Yeah.
Well, and also you don't gain the memories and thoughts, the memories of that person either. So you don't know what they know. So that still continues to speak to, like, it's still you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
And, like, Polyjuice is really powerful, but it can be superseded by, like, other magic. The Marauder's Map ignores it. The Thief's Downfall removes it. And I feel like a lot of the... Like, you could employ defenses against a world where people might be Polyjuice. Like, I think legitimacy would still work just fine.
Yeah.
We discussed this on some episode, I don't remember which, but the ministry leaflets where they're like, come up with code words if, in case people are Polyjuiced, that's actually sensible. That is, like, actually an example of good advice from the ministry, which is unusual for them.
Credit where it's due.
It was Dawlish who wrote it. He knows all the theory, but none of the practice.
So one of the things that I've wrestled with is which version of a person you're transforming into. So, like, the key data point here we have is Barty Crouch transforming into Moody, because when Junior transforms, he becomes the one-eyed and one-legged version of Moody. So, like, it's not just, like, DNA telling the Polyjuice what to transform, because then, like, all your original limbs would be intact.
That's very true. I think if you were to grab a hair from Mad-Eye Moody pre-First Wizarding War, and you pickled it, to continue our conversation from last episode, if you pickled it, then what would occur is if you took it during Goblet of Fire time, you would have non-nose blasting, non-eye limbs Moody, because it's magically coded from the exact moment that you took it. But if you take it after, in current day, it shows you current day. So if you, like, pickled Harry's hair from when he's 11 years old, you would turn into an 11-year-old.
Or a pickle. But I think
Great.
I think this can, be partially explained by science, because especially if you're using skin cells and things, like, those are constantly
Evolving and changing.
refreshing and changing and changing and developing as you live. And essentially all the cells in your body, it's something like every 7 years, they're completely different or something like that, where everything over time just ends up being regenerated and, skin cells are sloughing off and et cetera, et cetera. And so it makes sense that if you pluck that hair, that's not going to be the exact same cellular components of your hair in a year, or maybe, a little bit from now or something like that. And so it does make sense, even from a scientific, biological standpoint, that when you take the hair, that is the version of the person that you're going to be turning into. I think that just makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too. Basically, like, my understanding is that you're transforming into the person as they currently are. I'm not quite sure, like, how the currently is clocked, like, whether it's, it's when you add the hair to the potion, it's when the hair is plucked from the head, or if it's when you drink it. But it sounds like you guys are, like, when the hair is plucked is the version you're transforming into.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's when it's plucked. I think it would be hard to justify that there's a magical connection between your hair that's been plucked from you and the like time that you drink it in a Polyjuice potion, as if there's all these invisible threads of magic all over the world that it can, like, send a signal down to be like, okay, what's the body currently look like? So I think it would be a problem, right? If you're trying to get into this wizarding gala to perform an Ocean's 11 heist, right?
Love it.
If you pluck George Clooney's gray hair, and you're gonna turn into that person at that time. But if he then goes and dyes his hair to match Brad Pitt's, you show up at the party and everyone's gonna go, George, what happened to your dye?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree on the moody pre-magical eye point, which makes me think that I also have to agree with the 11-year-old Harry's hair point, though I had never till this moment thought about that.
Yeah. You never thought about how valuable...
Never thought about pickling hair before.
I feel like this month, it's a pickle special at the Three Broomsticks.
Yeah, for real.
I will also say, Nick Moline, over at the Lexicon, had another theory that basically, since it's magic, or sorry, not Nick, I think Steve Vander Ark said that basically it's the intention that, like, when you're drinking, it's like your vision of the person that you're transforming into. I always thought that was a little too squishy.
Yeah, way too squishy. Like, incredibly squishy.
Basically, you're transforming into the person as they are, with lost limbs, scars, weight gain or loss, hair dye, sort of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So if we assume you're transforming into the person as they are, the moral is don't transform into dead people. This is another one of those edge cases. Like, if you transformed into a corpse, you'd be dead. I think it would be very inadvisable. I also think if you transformed into a person who was dead, I think you might just die because, per Dumbledore, no spell can reawaken the dead. Does that also apply to spells wearing off? I might say yes. So I think if you transformed into someone dead, that would be it. So yeah, don't do it.
I just think if we're going with this theory that from the moment that you pluck the hair or the toenail or the skin cell or the whatever, if we're going with that theory, then if the person is long since passed, but you've kept your eyelash pickled, you would transform into that person.
Yes.
It's not reanimating the dead because that person is still dead. It's just you pretending to be that person. But if you plucked from somebody who had passed, it wouldn't do anything. I just think there would be no essentially alive DNA skin cells to work with.
Yeah.
Oh, you just think the Polyjuice wouldn't accept it as a catalyst?
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I actually do think that if you plucked the hair off a corpse, you would be able to transform. And my reason for it is sinister. I just have to believe there's a way that dark witches and wizards could impersonate a dead person for their nefarious schemes. I feel like we'd lose an opportunity for evil doing there if you couldn't transform into someone who had died.
Well, but I think even if you transform into them, you would transform into them as a no longer living person. So, I
don't.
Here's my argument to the contrary. Then Crouch would have just killed Moody and kept his body and harvested
I agree with that.
He didn't have to keep him alive.
He has to keep him alive.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was more so he could interview him throughout the year and better impersonate him.
I think it's both.
But then you could also have he could have had Moody speak to a portrait and then killed him and then interviewed the portrait.
Yeah.
Or pulled all his memories out into a pensive.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, pulled all his memories out into a pensive. That's true.
Yeah. Or just have Voldemort do some legilimency and being like, hey, can you read Moody's mind on how he would grade this paper? Would we give it an O?
It all comes back to grading papers.
Moody for sure is I don't give out any O's ever because that doesn't teach you anything.
Well, that is well countered, guys. I got nothing.
Yeah, almost like we've been doing this for, 42 episodes in some cases. Okay, so the how it all works thing that I struggle with the most is, are parts of a person transforming, or is the whole person transforming? And so bear with me. I'm going to try to explain this as intelligibly as I can. But the thing I struggle with is that when George's ear is cursed off, when he's polyjuiced into Harry, it remains cursed off. And so there's two ways polyjuice could work. Either it's a part-to-part transformation, right? George's ear becomes Harry's ear, George's wrist becomes Harry's wrist, and so on. Rather than, George, the person who has ears, transforming into Harry, the person who also has ears. And, that would seem to be the more direct explanation of why the ear is just gone. But I really don't think it holds up to scrutiny, especially with the whole lost limb situation with Crouch and Moody, but also with the whole cross-gender transformations of it all. So the other theory, which I think makes more sense, is that it is like a person-to-person transformation rather than part-to-part. And so since George, as Harry, like had a chunk of him cursed off, I think once you detransform, the detransformed self would approximate as best it can, being like, oh, well, we lost like a chunk of, ear ish, so we're gonna keep it lost, basically. So I think that made more sense, but also floor open for debate here.
I think the Sectum Sempra curse we know is really permanent in this particular case. It's not fixable by any sense of magic. And so it supersedes, much like the downfall of the thief supersedes Polyjuice Potion. It goes beyond just the transformation part, and so more deeply affects George than just the Polyjuice does.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that it's specifically because of the spell that was used, or the curse that was used, rather than if some other sort of spell or curse to alter George's body composition would have done.
Yeah.
Like, it's specifically because it's Sectum Sempra that does the ear removal and not some sort of other thing. That's why it supersedes it instead of...
If it had been a lighter spell that at St. Mungo's they could have recreated, I think the Polyjuice Potion might have just given him back his ear.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, I think if you, cut off a finger, in the kitchen chopping vegetables when you're polyjuiced, I think it might grow back when you detransformed.
Huh.
Yeah.
But because it's Sectum Sempra, we can't really answer that because we know that is permanent outside of Polyjuice as well.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think if there's any other instances in the text where we have someone being injured while polyjuiced, but I mean, the only thing that I can think of is Ron's already Ron again and not Reg when he gets splinged.
Yeah.
Right. But just I feel sort of mundane alterations, if you bruise your shin, if you get a scrape, I think that would all definitely be part of the body of the physical appearance that would just be washed away with the transformation. I'm not sure if a body part is actually severed, if that would come back or not. Yeah, I'm sort of 50-50 on that one. I'm not sure. Saul, what about you?
Oh, again, never stopped to think about this. Yeah, I think if you just lost a finger to a kitchen knife while polyjuiced, I don't think I'd bet on it growing back when you turn back.
Yeah, but if you got a scrape, would that vanish with the detransformation?
That feels fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder what the difference is. Is it just the separation of nerves then in that case?
Yeah, I think because it's it acts on your body as one thing. So once your body is no longer one thing, then I feel like it would continue to be not one thing. Okay. I can be down with that. I just wonder what the physical or magical reason for that is. Yeah.
Right? Is it the separate...
I think it's the separation for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just complete separation. So let's say we have a huge gash that goes from chest down to right quad. And it's deep, deep, deep. But all of those nerves can still talk to each other. You think as soon as the transformation occurred, then it would stop?
Yes, unless it was dark magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then I got to wondering about blood loss.
Right. So is that blood still all in there?
Can you get all that blood back?
Maybe. I definitely think if you lost so much blood when transformed, that might carry over. You transform back and maybe you wouldn't have a gash, but you'd be woozy from blood loss.
Right, that would be separation, right? It is out of the body.
Yeah, exactly.
We did it.
Yes. Also, one quick follow-up is, would the severed parts detransform as well? Just remain separate? So
it's just George's ear after the hour?
Yeah. Is it George's ear lying somewhere in southern England, or is it Harry's? Because I would say George's.
I would say George's.
I would also say George's.
Sarah, unanimous?
Yes. No, I am I form the consensus with everyone else as well.
Okay. I think that's most of what I wanted to address in terms of how Polyjuice works, aside from the PG-13 stuff we'll get to later. What about you guys? Any more, like, things you wondered about how Polyjuice works? Because this is one of those things where, like, when you dive down the rabbit hole, there's so many cases to think about.
No, I think we covered the main parts of it. For me was just really, if when you pluck at a certain time, is it coded to that or is it coded to something later? And we covered that topic quite thoroughly.
Yeah. I'm not the first. This is not an original thought to me, but I do think a lot about that when Crouch Jr. took the potion to become moody. It was a smart enough potion to turn him into a moody that was not missing chunks of hair that had been cut off for the potion. So it's a smart potion is kind of my catch-all.
It is a smart
potion. That is
potion.
an interesting point.
If I ever start to wonder, it knows what it's doing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Barty Crouch Jr. is also just a really good barber in addition to being a really good defense professor.
Maybe.
Okay, then I think we can transition from how Polyjuice works as a potion to how it works in the world. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a lot of ethical questions and legal questions in the Wizarding world. From what we see, from what we learn from the perspective of Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and we don't really hear much else about it, there doesn't seem to be actually that bit of regulation. It seems like, due to the explanation of the transformation being extremely painful, that the Wizarding world is just relying on people not wanting to be in pain in order to do this, rather than actually having any regulations or restrictions. So then
and also just the difficulty of brewing the potion to begin with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true. Because if you get it wrong, or if you get the wrong hair, or anything like that we see with Hermione, it there's a long extended time in St. Mungo's. So I wanted to talk about the ethics of it for a second. So under the unethical part of the Polyjuice Potion, I have having your body replicated against your will. So i.e. Crabbe and Goyle in Christmas of 92, or little girls throughout the school year of 96-97.
It's not great from an ethics perspective. Yeah, I mean, the Wizarding world doesn't regulate lots of potions quite as much as they should. Yeah. Sure, y'all can guess where I'm going with that one. Yeah, I think it would also be a very hard one to regulate, honestly.
I mean, you could literally say it is illegal to use this potion without the consent of the owner.
Sure, but would that stop literally any of the cases that we've discussed?
No, but that still doesn't mean there shouldn't be regulation. There's regulation in the United States for all sorts of stuff that you can't really stop. But the fact that there's a regulation there does quite a bit. It's like building a fence. It's not actually going to stop anybody who really wants to do it, but it would stop the curious and the people who might.
Okay. I mean, okay, by that logic, do we have evidence that it's not regulated?
That's the whole point of what I said on the intro, is that from the perspective of the trio, we don't see that there's any regulations and we never learn about anything. So that was why I said that whole portion.
Okay.
So it seems like there's no regulations, but there's nothing definitive to say about that.
I would have to imagine that with all of Hermione's research into it, there would be specific mention. And now that I'm saying it, I feel like she mentions that it's kind of inadvisable, but I don't know that she mentions that it's necessarily
full
illegal.
Up illegal. Yes.
Because she does have to find it in a really sketchy book, and she has to get it out of the restricted section. And, most potent potions is not on everyone's book list. And
yeah, totally.
So, there's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through in order to get their hands on how to even do it. Which also becomes, as you were saying earlier, Saul, like it becomes easier later. This is another thing is like, they don't have all these hoops to have to jump through. Like, what did Hermione just memorize how to make it?
Yeah.
You know, how are all these other people
Yes, she did.
getting the instructions? And so, yeah, I think it's more just like, this is not a good idea. This is really dangerous, rather than anything kind of specifically regulated. Because you would also think that if that was the case, there would be regulations on the specific ingredients.
I'm thinking of the first potions class with Slughorn when he's showing them, here are some of the potions that you'd be expected to be able to brew for
Right.
your NEWTs. And that includes
Polyjuice.
Polyjuice and Felix Felicis. So it's part of the curriculum, which is amusing. And he takes the time to say Felix Felicis is subject to these bans from Quidditch or from test taking, but all he says that I can all I remember about Polyjuice is you might have read about it in the news lately.
Yes. It doesn't actually say this is banned from
Right.
a political. You also can't use this in politics or sports. Hey, this guy's been ejected. He's gotten 3 red cards in Quidditch, and can't play this next match. So he just polyjuiced himself into his teammate. But his skill is all still there. His mind is still there.
If the teammate consents.
Right, but that's the whole point, is that you would think that he would have also mentioned the legality behind it,
Exactly.
which he did with Felix when he didn't with this.
Yeah, that's true. Because generally when something is entirely illegal, like think the Unforgivables,
That's
which
mentioned.
also are almost impossible to regulate.
Correct.
We at least are told that no.
Right.
So yeah, I think maybe just the Wizarding World has a bit of a blind spot when it comes to regulating potions.
Correct. Very much so.
We also had amortentia in that lesson, and love potions are all sorts of problems.
Fred and George literally sell them to teenagers.
Yep.
Minor versions of them they make they make sure to mention, but still.
Yeah, but Ron was completely infatuated
Yeah.
with Romilda Vane instead of his actual girlfriend.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not problematic the way that Fred and George have them. I'm just saying if that is the toned down version.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Precisely. If that's the toned down version. My God, Amortentia, no.
Yeah.
I guess it's up to the teachers to teach their students responsible potion making.
That's
Which,
fat luck with that, with Dumbledore being in charge.
Right.
again, the best teacher to do that is Barty Crouch Jr., who actually teaches his students the legality of what he's showing them.
Yeah, for real.
Again, best teacher we've had.
Mind you, we still learned loads.
Exactly.
That's so funny. I also have under unethical, for entertainment purposes. So I think a lot about the history of blackface in the United States, what it's used for in order to have these shows down south. And
Do
during
you?
What?
You think a lot about that? Day to day? Or right now?
For the purposes of this podcast, I've been
Okay.
entertainment.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I also, though, I do think about that from a sociological perspective and teaching kids and going over history components in terms of entertainment. Yeah, that's part of my job.
Okay, carry on.
Because the history of blackface is quite abhorrent, and yet we still have people who perform in it. So, moving past that, for the entertainment purposes, I really do feel like there's quite a bit of unethical usage that could be put in here. In Star Wars Rogue One,
Here we go.
they use Peter Cushing's image and get somebody to do his voice for the character of Governor Tarkin. Star Wars technically has the rights to his image as Governor Tarkin. However, the Cushing Trust, I believe, or what is it called when somebody passes on?
Estate.
Thank you, their estate. The Cushing estate said, don't use this. He wouldn't have wanted this. Don't, we think this is completely unethical. Please don't use his image and likeness in this way. And they used CGI to create his character. At the time, it was probably the best version of that they could have done. But so I think about, like, for entertainment purposes, even with consent signed in an early form or consent signed by somebody who's down on their luck, and so will give away their racial identity in order to gain money, or like what we've got going currently, which is like a lot of people who just want to get paid signing away their rights for AI to be able to use their imaging as extras. I think there's a lot of entertainment purposes unethical usage for Polyjuice Potion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very relevant right now as well.
Yeah.
Both with the whole CGI of specifically we own the likeness to you, but also with all these things I just keep seeing popping up of AI made
Deepfakes.
You know, yeah, I mean, fighting between John Wick in something and fighting someone completely different, and just using, Keanu Reeves and George Clooney's faces for this fight sequence and their voices for talking and, all these things. And it really is in that vein of, if someone disguises themselves and then goes and makes a speech or performs as that other person, that it has huge implications on that person's, like, just general life and visage, and then who are you really? And we get
or
very,
even
very
in the news
deep.
recently, there was a doctored video of Michael Jordan that was used to, like, claim pedophilia about him that turned out to be fake, but because it was so realistic, et cetera, you guys know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
And so I think for entertainment purposes here, again, talk about a real life example of regulation. Currently, there's no law against deepfakes or fake videos. And so they're all over the place. Versus if you create that law, you will have a great vast majority of those getting taken away. Will it stop every single one? Not at all.
No.
But I do think that's the reason why you create regulations.
Yeah. This Polyjuice discussion is so interesting to be having now, because I feel like 5 years ago it would have been a completely different podcast.
100%.
But we're sort of witnessing all of these, like, ethical and regulatory and logistical dilemmas of, once the genie is out of the bottle in terms of impersonating people, like, how do you stop it? Like,
right, totally.
And Lord, I wish we had answers.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some other ones as well. For personal use or personal entertainment, I can't get into too much, but there's some pretty dark stuff that can go in, especially without consent of the owner. There's a whole different conversation you're going to have without me about with consent, but without consent, deeply unethical, should be illegal in my head.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to ask you, do you think it can ever be justified? Like, in a war setting for espionage purposes, like, when, like, literally when Harry and Ron impersonate Crabbe and Goyle to, try to to interrogate Draco, like, can there ever be a scenario where it's justified for espionage even without consent?
Well, I think, there's a whole section that we have that's just down below what my ethics questions, which is the legal questions. And it seems like it would be legalized subterfuge, spying, secretive work, that sort of stuff. So beyond my own ethics about how war should be handled, beyond my own pacifism, I think that, there's certainly a precedent set within the real world for a justifiable use of Polyjuice Potion in order to spy or subterfuge, secret, to protect your government, your way of life, your status, etc. There are, like, even in current corporate America today, there's no laws around going up to somebody at a fair, right? And you guys are two competitors at this showcase for inventions, and you can pretend that you're not a part of a rival company and ask a lot of questions, So I think that there's a thin line between, like, for war and for safety reasons of the general public versus for subterfuge of product placement. But I think that there are certainly some cases that it would be ethical.
Okay. I mean, agreed. I think sort of a good bit of the Polyjuice use we see, especially in Deathly Hallows, once they're in an open state of warfare, like, I would consider justified.
Yeah, I think the Deathly Hallows is certainly, I mean, first of all, like the Seven Potters, they don't really get Harry's consent.
They even joke about not needing it.
Right.
Also,
which
he's a minor. He is a minor for a week more.
For one more week. I actually do have some problems with the way that scene is handled, but
I have qualms.
for the purposes of like the protection of Harry, it seems like it's a justifiable sense. And Harry's worry isn't, I don't want you guys to misuse my body. That happens afterwards when they're all a lot more blatant about putting his privacy on display. And then he goes, wait a second. But his problems are all, I don't want you guys to be put in harm's way because you look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, like, with Crabbe and Goyle, it's a fairly good thing that we've got Ron and Harry who are not going to abuse their use of Crabbe and Goyle. But, like, that would be unethical, certainly. You knocked out a person and then stole their identities for a while to go and find out nothing.
On Christmas!
Yes, on Christmas Day! That's not the Christmas spirit. Did Michael Caine teach you nothing? So that's certainly unethical, especially with all the various different forms of ways that they could have questioned Draco. Which it seemed just as difficult. But anyways, yeah, so I think certainly there's some room there.
Yeah, I think also one interesting thing that you could think of, especially in the kind of subterfuge line of things, is if someone says, okay, we're going to go in and find out all we can about whatever, but we have to do it all at the same time. So there's going to be 10 of me running around getting all the information that we need right now. And I've set up meetings with all these different people, and it'll all occur at the same time, so they don't have time to talk to each other about what just happened.
Yeah.
And so then you can go and, everybody gets that information. Or, basically a magic trick of which cup has the ball under it. Oh, which one's the real one? There's 10 Sams running around. Oh no.
Oh no.
And then and try to, infiltrate a location under the disguise of which one is the real one, which one is actually trying to infiltrate, things like that. And in that case, I think it's even more acceptable because the person themselves is volunteering or signing on for this and for their visage to be used in this manner.
Yeah, I mean, consent goes such a long way in making it all ethical.
Yes.
Yeah. But Sam, you actually had really interesting ideas about how it could be used for, like, health reasons and elder care and such.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting here. If we're talking about your body is getting changed kind of like head to toe, and then you magically keep your mind in some way, this could be used as an extension of life. So your family would know, hey, grandpa is using, while he's had a terminal illness, he's using this, for several hours a day, whatever it is, to avoid long-term effects, which we know that there are long-term effects with all potions. Especially in Barty Jr.'s case, we don't run into any of the long-term effects unless him slowly going even crazier is part of that, and it's just never really covered. But we know that, Felix Felicis has long-term effects. I'm sure Polyjuice would have long-term effects. But you could, ostensibly, use this potion to extend your life. So, okay, I have this terminal disease in my body. I'm going to shift over. My body is now not dealing with this. And then you could extend your life that way in order to get your affairs in order, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I honestly, I never thought of that, but that's brilliant.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Certainly there would have to be like, hey, I've donated my DNA at St. Mungo's for this specific purpose, just like you would donate blood. But I think that there's a very ethical and kind way of doing that.
Yeah. No, I'd be down being like, yeah, transform into me. Go nuts, have fun.
Same. I would also feel that way. Very, very controlled setting.
Yeah, it would also be kind of now that I'm diving further into this idea in my head, it could be something as interesting as, you know, what we were talking about at the very beginning of like, well, what if you're transforming into someone who has all these really specialized talents or something like that? And, you know, just for an hour at the end of your life, you could transform into someone who can rock climb or do something that you've always wanted to do, but you physically were not able to, or something like that. Or someone who, I mean, obviously we're in the wizarding world, so we don't have as much of, you know, someone who's been in a wheelchair or something like that. Or, you know, Harry could transform into somebody who doesn't need glasses.
Yeah.
Because apparently you can fix lots of things, but that's not one of them.
Yeah. Amos Diggory is in a wheelchair in Cursed Child, even though we might consider that fan fiction. That is a thing that has occurred one time.
So, you know, it could be something where, you know, they're given the ability to walk, you know, at the end of
for one last
kind
time.
of like Make-A-Wish, like a Make-A-Wish situation.
Make a Polyjuice wish.
Or
Yeah.
I even like this idea of like, you know, hey, I've pickled all my hairs at different, you know, at 10, at 11, at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, and now I'm going to relive that bodily experience in my final days.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be really interesting.
Imagine what that would be like for athletes, right? Like you won your Olympic gold at 18, you're over the hill by 21, and then like, you know, in your 40s and 50s, you're like, I wanna feel once more what that was like.
Yeah, you don't have to have a complete bionic leg because you've torn your knee up so much at the age of 42.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and think what that could be like in terms of coaching. Sorry, can y'all tell I've been watching the Olympics nonstop?
No, it's great. The Olympics is amazing. We should all watch the Olympics.
Agreed. But yeah, like if you're, you know, a figure skating coach now, you could just transform into your 24-year-old self and you're like, here's how you do the triple axel. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh, that's really cool. Oh, guys, we found a wholesome thing for Polyjuice.
Isn't that amazing?
Polyjuice tourism.
I do like that there would probably be some stuff where it's like, if you pay 4,000 gallons today, you can turn into LeBron James for an afternoon.
You know what? If I
like what's that thing where you can like rent an actor to like say something or to what is
Cameo? You think this is just Cameo on steroids?
Yeah, exactly.
God, could you imagine the amount of like, we already have these discussions today, like, oh, that video's not Hulk Hogan, that's AI. And so it'd just be like, did you get me actual Hulk Hogan or did you... is this a Polyjuice guy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. With Polyjuice out there, Cameo would just have to shut down. Or you'd need like a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd want to transform into like Michael Phelps and swim the English Channel or what have you.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
Yeah.
It would be so cool.
Listeners, tell us who you want to Polyjuice into, given, you know...
With consent.
With consent and given the means.
With consent, with consent, with consent, with consent, with consent.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we've discussed all the wholesome avenues for Polyjuice, I think we can turn our attention to something slightly less so.
Which you will have to do without me, for I am not approved by my own place of work to be on a not safe for work edition of this podcast. So this is my very clear excusal of myself and a reminder to everybody that we're still talking about consent, and all discussions around sex would be about people who are not minors. So they would be, if we're talking about Ron, Harry, Hermione, etc., they would be theoretically all at the age of consent, definitely not minors. We're not talking about that on this podcast. So I will now excuse myself. Have a great conversation. See you guys at the end.
Thanks. Yeah, you know, one day when Sam's older, we'll be able to talk about it with him. So back to how Polyjuice works. There are so many edge cases that I want to discuss when it gets to pregnancy. because sort of everything we were talking about, like separating from the body and, what you're transforming into, like the really fun edge cases are surrounding pregnancy. So first of all, if you're transforming into someone, like who's pregnant, and per our theory, you're transforming into them like as they are at that moment, I imagine that you'd be transformed into someone who is also pregnant, like with a baby bump, right?
So here's my dilemma on this.
Uh-huh.
The baby's not being transformed. Your DNA is not the exact same as the baby's DNA. Therefore, while you might have a bump, I don't know if there would be a baby.
I mean, I guess this gets into the, like, is a fetus part of the mother or not, which seems slightly above our pay grade.
Well, even from a very, very, very basic standpoint, like not getting into any of that, a fetus, baby, whatever you want to call, has separate DNA because it's not just the mom, there's also the dad. So there would be an element of that missing if you were to just take the hair of the mom.
So would then...
This is a really tricky one.
So if you're going by that, if you're going by DNA, would you still be pregnant, but the baby would only have your DNA? And not the father's?
That's horrifying to think about.
I know, that's a nightmare, but I think that's where your reasoning gets me.
Nightmare fuel right here.
Saul, what about you?
Well, we were just a little bit ago talking about medical implications and uses of Polyjuice, and so I'm really torn on this pregnancy thing. If you turned into someone with dragonpox, would you also have dragonpox upon transforming into them? So
yes.
If they had dragonpox when you pulled the hair, is that different than them having certain scars and, missing limbs and things? Which I guess if you're having an additional being, that would be the equivalent of having a missing limb on the flip side.
Mm-hmm.
So then, yes.
Yeah, I really, it does. Your theory does logically follow, Irvin. But it's so weird to think about that happening that I don't know if I can get there with you.
Yeah. Well, it can get weirder, because what if you polyjuice into someone who is 9.5 months pregnant and then go into labor? Like, I think that, like, the drinker would also give birth. I think you'd have 2 babies born at the same time, and, we can call them Polyjuice twins. And I think, like, once it's born, then it's, like, a whole separate person and, like, isn't impacted by Polyjuice wearing off or anything like that. But I think you could theoretically give birth to 2 babies like this.
I think this, I'm thinking this goes back to our kind of Mystique comparison, where this is really a disguise and a physical change that is, I don't think that your body would react the same way, because you are still you and you are not pregnant. And so I think that while you may appear to be so, I do not think that you actually are or would go into labor. Your body would not react the same way, because it's not, you yourself do not have that going on. And so I don't think that, I'm sure that there's, if we were in this world, I'm sure there would be all kinds of warnings of do not use Polyjuice while pregnant.
Yes, that is the one warning they're going to put.
Well, I mean, because there are so many different factors that go on within your body. You're constantly changing as you're pregnant in general. So then if you, I mean, because this is even talking about if someone else transforms into somebody pregnant, but if you were pregnant and then transformed into somebody else, I think that would be
inadvisable.
Very, very inadvisable and detrimental. And so I really do think I'm going to hold firm on my Mystique idea of you may appear to be pregnant, but you will not actually be pregnant. And so therefore you would not actually give birth.
Yeah, maybe the other way to express my misgivings would be the Polyjuice Potion kind of creating life.
Yeah.
I can't get there.
I don't think that it has that full capacity. So
Yeah. Well, just to push back on the Mystique applicability here. So I think that Polyjuice recreates like your physiology, like not just what's on the inside, but like, your bones, your organs, like everything that's inside, I think also changes when you drink Polyjuice. Like I think your mind and essence of self and whatever that is doesn't, but I think sort of what's on the inside does change. So I think by that reasoning, I would say that, like your body would still change, even if it were pregnant or not, like that part of it. But okay. So that's one edge case. Next edge case is, what if you are polyjuiced into a man and, you impregnate someone while polyjuiced? Whose sperm is it? Who ends up as the baby daddy? You, not the transform me, but the drinker.
You.
Okay. I agree. Do you care to expound?
No, I mean, it just goes back to you are you, and at some point that's going to wear off, and you won't be whoever you were transformed into anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying like after an hour.
Yeah, like
the sperm, the way we talked about like George's severed ear earlier.
Right. Would the separated sperm transform back? I would say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, just like from a societal perspective, like it would be complete anarchy otherwise. Like literally guys could be like fathering children on people they've never met or encountered in their lives. And like, again, the wizard world isn't great at consent and regulating potions, but that might be a bridge too far.
Going back to our favorite character in the Harry Potter books, Mystique. She is. She applies here because there's an awful retcon where she's not Nightcrawler's mother. She's his father. She turned into a man and impregnated Destiny.
Oh,
so Mystique, useful for thinking through Harry Potter.
Really, like Mystique is the main topic of this episode.
Now there's a title.
But actually, so talk of which, like, I think that would actually be like a societal good, because then like a lesbian couple could have biological children, the two of them, because yeah, like one of the women polyjuices into a guy, does the deed, and then the other one is pregnant with a baby that has the DNA of both parents. So another wholesome implication of Polyjuice.
Potentially, but yeah. So I guess in this case, it just depends on if we're fully buying into the Mystique theory, because in the Mystique world, yes, that would work. But if we're thinking that after Polyjuice wears off, and then that wouldn't exist anymore, because a woman doesn't have that.
Right, but I think once the egg was fertilized, then sort of like it's a fertilized egg and it's sort of nothing to do with the sperm. I'll admit to not being spectacular in high school bio, but from what's coming back to me.
If I'm gonna object to Polyjuice Potion creating life, then I think I should also refuse to believe that it would take away life in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm on board with this, Dr. Caitlin.
Thanks, Saul. Okay, very, very edge case, the edgier edge case. What if you impregnate someone, you drink Polyjuice, you impregnate someone, and then you keep drinking Polyjuice for 10 months, like, uninterrupted? Like, would you then have a baby with the transformed DNA? I mean,
No.
Why no?
Because this goes back to you are still you. You're you are still you. It doesn't change the DNA of a completely different entity.
But hold on. But sorry, if you're still you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you are transformed for a period of 10 months. Mm-hmm. And in the transformed state, you impregnate someone. Like, would that fetus not have the DNA of the transformed person?
I kind of don't think so. And this is hard because we're combining science and magic here.
Yes.
In a way that is not combined.
Yes.
So we're using DNA in a way that is not clear or specified or elaborated on in this world. Because I'm thinking if you were to father a child in this way, you're still the father. Like that is still your child. When the essence of who you are leaves you, it's not like and becomes this child. It's the child now. It's not you who are polyjuiced. You can't polyjuice the kid. If that makes sense.
Kind of.
Like, it's a completely separate entity with multiple DNA. Like, you're not, it's a really tricky thing because, again, like, we're getting into DNA and a child is made up of multiple people's DNA. And if you are polyjuiced, you're just changing what the physical aspects are. You're not actually like creating yourself completely different permanently. And it's still magic. It's not actually altering your body permanently. Therefore, that's not going to be a permanent change ever.
Okay. I guess I think our disagreement here is that I think Polyjuice does change your DNA. Like, I think sort of your DNA is part of the physical thing that Polyjuice is changing. And sort of all the chaos that ensues from that axiom. Whereas you're saying that it doesn't go that deep. Right?
Right. I think that you're still you. And so there's still, like, you keep your mind, like, it's... Like, otherwise, if it changes your DNA, you're going to be changing. I mean, that would also change your mind, and that would change your intelligence. That would change everything if you're actually altering your DNA. So you wouldn't be keeping your mind the same if that was the case.
I mean, my rebuttal is magic. But I
mean,
I hear where you're coming from. Saul, care to play tiebreaker?
No, this one is a lot harder for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah,
I've just been waiting.
I mean,
I've just been waiting for my moment to make a joke about Augustus Pye and his complementary medicine approach. He would be proud that we're exploring this.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, if your argument is because magic, then my argument is because magic.
Sure. Yeah.
Because magic, that's not magic. If magic is keeping your essence alive and your intelligence and who you are, but changing your DNA, then it's still going to be your essence through the magic creating that child.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you think creates a child, whether it's essence or DNA. I think I'm taking a slightly more, sciencey approach to it.
Yeah, but you just argued that magic was your reason why this worked. So you can't take a sciencey approach, but then claim magic.
No. My argument is that magic preserves your mind. Like my argument is that like Polyjuice transforms your DNA, and so all the DNA stuff happens DNA-wise, whereas just magic is what preserves your mind when all this is going on.
But that's still okay. That's still your DNA, though. So like, there's a line in the sand here of where magic actually jumps in, and I'm saying it's here, and you're saying it's 5 yards down the line.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay.
We're both saying that magic creates a barrier between who you are and who this other person is, but we're like arguing the semantics of a little bit, basically.
Yeah. So basically what I'm hearing is that if you combine Polyjuice with IVF, it's not going to go well.
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, fine. Moving aside from the science of it, let's talk about the, sexy societal implications of Polyjuice existing in this world. Namely, the thing that I always bring any Polyjuice discussion back to, Polyjuice brothels. I am so thoroughly 100% convinced that this is a thing that exists in the wizarding world, because in no society would you have this potion available and that would not come to pass.
I mean, if you thought of it, there's no way they haven't thought of it.
Right. So, like, basically, a customer brings a hair of whoever they desire to a brothel, and then some Kockturn Alley Sally, puts it in a Polyjuice, drinks the potion, and, makes all their dreams come true. And I would say that the only way that Severus Snape didn't die a virgin is if he had Lily's hair handy. Yeah, I'm thoroughly convinced that these exist. The ethics are yikes. At our Polyjuice meetup, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what safeguards you'd need to make this system even remotely okay. Because, the system exists, but we want to make it okay. How would we do that? Obviously no cameras, no photos. You would need, waivers, for the person being transformed into. Yeah. Can you guys think how you would try to, clean up this system? Which, again, doubtless exists.
I'm trying to think if, we know that for exams there are anti-cheating spells that you can bewitch parchment and quills with. So is there some kind of waiver guarantee spell that you can apply to whatever you'd apply it to in that?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking something a little more reliable than swearsy realsies and
be I pinky promise they're totally cool with it.
Wait, I was about to make a joke about and just signing forms, but if Hermione can jinx Dumbledore's army sign-up sheet so that if you rat them out, you get the sneak acne, then can you enchant waivers and contracts and whatever that'll bring consequences if you violate them?
I mean, yeah, I think that would be how you'd have to do it. Yeah, definitely, you need to be able to sign something with magical consequences.
Mm-hmm.
At that same Polyjuice meetup, our friend Maya said that, her character in the Wizarding World, she would just be the madam of this Polyjuice brothel and would just keep everything on the up and up. And I think we were agreed that she'd be great at it. I am intrigued, though, by folks' responses. Would you be okay with this? Would you, sign the waiver, give your hair and, tell them have fun? Assuming, no cameras, no photos, etc., etc. Personally, I say yes. If I'm not the one required to have sex with you, what's it to me? Go nuts. But I've gotten varying responses on that one.
It's a no for me. But rock on, Irvin. You're a better friend than I am, I guess.
Yeah. Pull it, Randy. That'll be a no for me, dog.
Nah, if I'm not involved, you do you. Or me, as the case may be.
Hey-o.
Okay. what if we bring Polyjuice to the marital bed? Because again,
No, thank you.
doubtless a thing that no, not into it.
No.
It's just role play to the nth degree. Like, I would cheerfully believe that Ron and Hermione take turns transforming into Victor Crumb. And frankly, if my ship had sailed, Ginny and Colin would end up together and would take turns transforming into Harry, and I think they would both really enjoy that.
I don't know that I agree that Ron would enjoy transforming into Crumb.
Well, if he gets Hermione to transform into him, then turnabout's fair play.
I just worry that if Ron has taken the form of Crumb, then all his years-long feelings of jealousy and inadequacy would just come to the fore.
I think Hermione would have to manage that, being like, oh, you're so much hotter when you're Ron. Totally convincing.
Indeed.
It just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, this is something else I don't think I'd be engaging in, but not out to police your good times.
Right, exactly. Like, not trying to yuck anyone's yum.
Quite so.
This is another instance, though, where there would have to be consent involved from that third party. Because it's still their body.
Yeah.
So they can't just, do this unless Victor is offered.
Mm-hmm.
Can't just swipe Victor's hair every time he comes to dinner.
Be like, wow, it's so weird. They've started inviting Victor over for dinner so regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at that point, if it... at that point, it seems pointless. Like, you should just
invite them?
Invite Victor.
And I mean, there's also the fact that besides the Polyjuice, we have human transfiguration, which seems even tougher to regulate. Like, could they just be human transfigurationing one or the other into Crumb with no need for him or his knowledge or consent?
I think human transfiguration is a much more blunt tool. Basically, I don't think there's, a spell to be Transformus Victorus.
Right.
And you get Victor Crumb. I think you would sort of have to be all right, first I'm going to make you taller with a spell, then I'm going to darken your hair with a spell, then I'm going to give you a hook nose with a spell. I think it would take a while, it would be inexact, and it would kind of kill the mood.
I buy that.
Yeah.
Good call.
Be like, and now I transform your appendage into Victor's appendage. And so on.
You're right. That is a lot of fuss and bother every time.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are the sexy implications of Polyjuice that I wanted to bring up. But
it was a journey worth taking.
Or non-sexy, as we have kind of determined.
Yeah, true. And any other not suitable for work considerations you've had about Polyjuice? Again, it's a favorite topic in our meetup, so we talk about it a lot. But yeah, listeners, we will cheerfully hear your 2 cents on, all the after dark implications of a world where Polyjuice Potion exists. And I think now we can go get Sam back to wrap this up.
Fantastic.
So we've talked about sort of how Polyjuice works, sort of how a society and a world with Polyjuice in it works. I think I just wanted to zoom out to wrap up and talk about Polyjuice as a storytelling device, sort of its presence and its prominence in the series. I think that it's really one of the better, big magical devices that, Joe put in the story, because, it's just powerful enough to facilitate lots and lots of plot and lots of complications, but I feel like it's also limited enough in sort of, it takes a while to brew, it's hard to procure ingredients, it can be overridden by lots of magic. It's limited enough that I feel like it doesn't break the story for me the way, something like Felix Felicis might. And speaking for myself, I feel like it made the last few books a lot more fun, just in terms of theorizing, because you always sort of had to be on top of things, being is someone Polyjuice to someone else? You always have to pay attention to who's being out of character, who's drinking a lot. So yeah, I give 2 thumbs up to Polyjuice as a storytelling device.
I think like with the time turners, there's a bunch of different things that's like, okay, we have to be really selective about how the access happens and how we use this and when you have access to the potion ingredients and all that sort of stuff, because it then can just be very much like, especially before legitimacy is and occlumency are introduced, it can be very much like, hey guys, we grabbed all the Death Eaters Polyjuice stuff and we're all just going to show up at Malfoy Manor and then all of Avada Kedavra Voldemort right there. And so it can be a very contrived device, and so has to be worked with pretty smartly. And I think Rowling, for the most part, does a pretty good job with that.
Yeah. Saul, what about you?
Yeah, I think you put it quite well. It's a simple enough concept, but you can do a lot with it. We see good guys and bad guys use it. And, I was joking at the start of the episode about it's been with us since book 2, and Felix Felicis is just this Johnny-come-lately. So it'll never occupy that place in our hearts. But the more I thought about it, the more... Actually, yeah, there is an attachment, I feel, when the Polyjuice recurs. Not on the level of... Like, one of my favorite tiny, tiny little things in the books is the first time Harry uses his invisibility cloak in each book, and we get it's time to get my dad's old cloak out again. Polyjuice is not on that level, but when it does return, I do get the sense of, yes, it's our old friend. What will we do next?
Which Harry has the same exact reaction, because there's this great moment, right, in the OWL where Harry's like, a question to describe the effects of Polyjuice, and he, like, grins to himself and starts writing. So, yeah, Harry also, I think, has a fondness for it, despite gestures broadly to the last 4 books.
So, yeah, it's a fixture.
And yeah, I think Joe did a good job of, like, bringing it to us slowly, it's a perfect example of the 2-book rule, where she, like, introduces, like, a bit of magic in 1 book, and then 2 books later, it's absolutely crucial to everything. So, yeah. Way to go, Polyjuice. What about you, Sierra?
I think that it is a nice thing that we have a through line with it. And it generally comes back as like yet another reason why Hermione is so intelligent, which I think is a good reminder, because it's brought back up. Yeah, well, Hermione, could brew Polyjuice Potion in a bathroom when she was 12. And that's such a kind of like important part of both Hermione's intelligence, but then also her willingness to break rules. So I think from a Hermione character standpoint, I really appreciate it. I do think there is some caution that needs to be taken, and I think relatively is taken throughout the books, of not overusing it or relying too heavily or having it become sort of like a plot hole that we need to worry about. But I think in general, it is nice to have a little bit of that element and confusion around it, especially in book 4, where you're like, oh, well, we did learn about this. Well, I wonder what could be going on here. But then it really adds to the mystery. And I always appreciate when there are the elements throughout the Harry Potter books that kind of span most of the series that are just little tidbits, kind of like when Harry's reading that question on the exam and he smiles to himself. It's kind of one of those moments where you're just like, oh yeah, remember when that happened? Okay.
Yeah, it makes the world feel much more lived in when sort of like these like magical spells and potions and stuff like keep showing up. It's not just the like, oh, this is like the one time that we're gonna show this because it's plot relevant and then never again. Like, yeah, I think Joe is good at that, but especially with Polyjuice, we're just like, oh, it's a thing that exists in this world, and so it will recur. So yeah, Polyjuice, good stuff.
Hey, Irvin.
Yeah?
What is playing on the pub's jukebox today?
I'm so glad you asked. So, some of the more after dark implications of Polyjuice, we're not the first to come up with them. Wizard Rockers have done it with aplomb before us. So today on the Pub Jukebox, we're going to be listening to Wizard Swingers by Peeved.
Come on, baby, let me light your fire so we can both jump in. We don't need no flu network to make our world spin. See, I've had a little kinky idea that I think you might like. I've got a little trick up my sleeve to really spice things up tonight. So let's take the Polyjuice Potion out and each take a little sip. This ain't cheating, it's just roleplay, but with an extra kick. So tonight you can be Fleur Delacour, because I think she's pretty hot. And I can steal her hair from Alex Carpenter and show you what he's really got.
Well, thank you very much, Saul, for visiting us here at the Three Broomsticks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome, Saul. You were a great guest.
It's been a lot of fun.
Very kind of you.
Is there anything that you would like to plug? Any shout outs you would like to make?
Well, I have no socials of my own to be followed on. Thank God. Leave me alone. But while I'm here, I do want to plug a company that's out here in New York City and its environs. I think they work in Jersey and Connecticut too, called Trivia AD. And until I met Irvin, this Trivia AD was really the only way I had out here to express Harry Potter fandom. They do these themed bar trivia nights with different pop culture topics, and Harry Potter books are constantly on offer.
Yeah. And we do it at least once a quarter. So yeah, if you ever want to either join us or compete with us in Harry Potter trivia, come find us at a Trivia AD event.
Yeah. If you find yourself in New York City, solid shot, you'll find me at one of those.
So how regularly do you go? Like, you don't go to all of them, do you?
No, I've cut back. I go a lot less often than I used to, because it was starting to feel excessive. But I go every few months now. I try to make it.
Yeah, the same, right? Like once every 2-3 months, you're like, oh, let's try our hand at Harry Potter trivia. Maybe this time we'll remember the Polyjuice ingredients.
This is the time. And it helps that they do enough topics interesting to me that like I can rotate between Harry Potter books, Harry Potter movies, Star Wars. So yeah, I've scaled back my Harry Potter books trivia playing, which is all the more reason you people should take up the slack.
Yeah, tell them the Three Broomsticks sent you.
And I, as long as I'm here on an Irvin Cateman podcast, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I've started going to the New York Order of the Phoenix meetup that Irvin co-hosts. Irvin can say more about that than I, but I'd be happy to plug that and link it in the show notes.
That's the one.
Yeah, much appreciated. Saul has been a very valued member of our meetup because I think you prepare more than anyone else when there's any sort of trivia element. Because every couple of months we'll do like a game or, a puzzle or something like that I usually come up with. And we did a spelling bee last year where it was like, it was various puzzles and quizzes all about the spells in Harry Potter. And Saul comes with pages of notes that he'd been studying and didn't miss a single question, won the whole event. It was so impressive.
Irvin, it will not surprise you to learn that 2 nights ago, this past Friday night, I went to a meeting of the Tolkien group that I go to once a month, and we played Silmarillion Jeopardy, and I had 5 pages of notes, and the hostess was thrilled.
Indeed, that does not surprise me. So, yep, I will second Saul's rec. If you're in New York City, please come hang out with our meetup, the New York Order of the Phoenix. We'd be happy to have you. And Saul, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast in addition to all the meetup-related projects.
You got it.
If you enjoyed your time at the pub today, please rate and review us online or tell your friends about our show. A huge thanks again to Nika Del Burgo, who bought us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks. Thank you, Nika!
Thank you so much, Nika! Whoop whoop!
Woo!
If you, dear listener, who's listening to my voice at the moment in your earballs, would like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks. That's with the numeral 3. Patreon.com/3broomsticks to sign up.
And you want to find us online? We are on various different social media channels, which are linked on our website and in the show notes. Do you want a heads up on recommended reading so that you could have prepared for this episode with the articles that we mentioned earlier? Do you want to see what could be coming up on our Patreon schedule? Do you want a hint about what might be coming up based on chains of emojis? All of that can be seen there. You can also visit our website, 3broomstickspod.com. That is with 3 spelled out like a word, THREE. There you can submit a topic. You can let us know your thoughts. You can connect with us.
Yeah. And while we're doing plugs, I think it's about that time where we have to bid goodbye to 2 of our team and ask you guys, Sam, Sierra, where can listeners find you once you're no longer at the pub every week? What do you want to plug?
Well, I just want to say first, in terms of parting words, I obviously has absolutely loved my time here at the pub. I wouldn't change anything about it. I'm very grateful that back in 2018 to 2017, I decided to apply for a social media position at MuggleNet, which is what led to me getting a podcast part on Aloha Mora, where I met you, Irvin, and our departed but still alive Aurelia. And then we left and we formed this, and I couldn't be more proud. You know, the fact that I've been on 42 episodes out of 83. I've been on more than half at this point that I'm leaving, and I just had such a great time. And this also won't be the last time you guys hear my voice on this podcast. I'm sure I'll be back to be either a guest or I'll pinch hit for somebody and sub-host, something of that nature. So I will see you guys in the pub again, I am sure.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely always welcome at the Three Broomsticks, and it's been great having you here.
I also have had just such a great time. It'd been so long by the time that I joined the podcast that I had really discussed Harry Potter at length with anybody else. And so getting to be invited on and, being a guest first and then having the opportunity to be a host has been just really amazing. And I've had such a delightful time joining in on all the discussions and being able to kind of feel a part of the Harry Potter fandom again. And it's been just so wonderful to kind of have that as such a main part of my regular life instead of just something in the background that I've always appreciated. So it kind of makes me feel like I was back in high school again, having in-depth discussions with my friends. So it's just been such a really great opportunity to be here and to be able to chat with you guys all the time.
Oh, now I'm getting misty-eyed. Go.
No.
And yeah, go plug something. I'm gonna stop chopping onions.
But if you would like to hear our voices, Sierra and I are over at what we're calling our Sister City podcast, Fandom Schmandom, where we are covering every bit of fandom that you love and more. So you can find us at Fandom Schmandom Pod over at Instagram and TikTok, where you can find our podcasts, little videos that we do, etc., etc. Additionally, we are found anywhere that you can find your podcast. Just simply type in Fandom Schmandom. You will see our logo. We covered Stranger Things earlier this year. We are currently working on covering the Star Wars prequels. later this year, we'll be covering some elemental ancient world stuff. That's a little hint and teaser. Exclusive to this podcast, we have not hinted at anything anywhere else.
No, we have not.
And we'll have a little bit more sci-fi at the very end of the year. And who knows? You know whose TV show is coming 2027, so be on the lookout for some Three Broomstick guests over in our world at that time.
Oh, do I smell a crossover on the horizon?
Yes, is the answer.
We could try to be coy, but why bother?
You had me at Star Wars prequels.
Great. We have a couple episodes out right now, so go check them out.
Yes. Well, yeah, look forward to checking that out. Look forward to welcoming you guys back here as often as you'll come. And listeners, next time we meet at the pub, we're going to be discussing Polyjuice Potion. But the chapter this time. We're going to be discussing Chamber of Secrets, Chapter 12, Polyjuice Potion. Now that we know what the potion's all about, let's check out the chapter named after it. And with that, I've been Irvin.
I am Sam.
And I will be Sierra, have been Sierra, forever shall be.
I am the Omega and Alpha of myself.
Thank you all so much for listening, and see you next time in the Three Broomsticks.
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by The Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
Sorry.
Don't do that.
Like choking over here.
Choking on Polyjuice.
Dun, dun, dun! Sarah, unanimous? Did we lose her?
Sorry, there was some loud noises in the background for a second, so I didn't want to
okay.
be disrupting.
Yeah, I was like, are we gonna have a hot take here?